3, 2, 1, and we are live. That our camera though. Switch the cameras.
Almost there.
You're gonna be switching.
One moment, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I in the frame?
We're here.
I'm not in the. I'm a bit in the
Yeah,
frame.
you are. I mean, come. My stand.
Move the camera a little bit. No?
Yes.
Yes, I'm good.
You're good?
We are live. Today Patrik is with us.
Hey guys, how's it going?
For those who don't know, and this will be the majority.
Most likely. Yeah.
Patrik is an old friend of mine.
We are.
Actually, we've known each other for 5, 6, 7, 8.
We go way back. I know him for like 6 years now. I think it was like when I was 19 that I started studying. I mean, like I met you immediately when we started studying, no?
Right.
Like in the first semester, if I'm not mistaken, because we were still.
It was the first semester actually.
Yeah, I
it
think
was a small
the first
group.
semester. Yeah. And I think I met you then after like.
It was the next semester, I believe.
It was. I think it was. It definitely wasn't
Or
in the
was it-
first semester. I think it might have been like the second or third.
I think it was the
around the
it
1 year
was-
mark.
I think it was your second and it was my third or something because I had like one more semester than you have done previously. So
Might be.
I don't know,
And
but
I remember I met you also with another.
Okay.
Is the camera up? I think it's removed it.
yes, I moved it a little bit. Oh.
Okay, you keep talking and I will readjust.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also remember there was one guy, another Bulgarian. I
That's
believe his name was Philip.
Yes,
right? Are you
that's
still in contact
Philip.
with him? Do you know anything
Actually,
about him?
well, not regularly, but I've heard from him like several months ago, and and he graduated and he's back to Bulgaria,
Back to
and
Bulgaria, okay.
yes, and he actually had the idea of studying a master in our like military academy.
Bulgarian military academy.
Yeah. He wanted
shit,
to do
okay.
something with the military, but like not being a soldier or something, but more like I don't know, like on a. I don't know, some management position, or I don't know what they have there, but something with the political science as well. And he's fine. I don't know how satisfied he was from the Vienna University, but
Okay. And do you
and we should say that it was the Vienna University. We met in the Vienna University because
Oh,
people
yeah,
don't know. I mean,
actually, people who are listening,
we studied
definitely
political
they have
science.
no freaking idea which university we're talking about. So
We're talking about Vienna.
Maybe square one. So basically, this must have been Vienna University back in like 2011.
Yeah.
Yes.
12.
That's
Or
where we
12,
started.
Or 12,
yeah.
ish. Somehow, yeah. And
So we're all from different countries.
all from different countries. I'm from Slovakia.
We're the same age, more or less.
Yeah.
Right.
And are you 93?
93. Yeah.
Me too. Yes.
91.
You're 91.
I'm an old
Yes,
person.
You're an old guy.
Reminds me
You're the
of-
wise one in the group, right?
Yeah. But age does not necessarily substitute wisdom.
That's true.
No.
Yes.
And wisdom doesn't
We see
substitute
that.
age.
But in your case, it probably is true. Somehow 93 reminded me of Schmosby. Vomit free since 93. No?
I have no idea what that means.
No?
Is it something typical Slovak?
You guys know How I Met Your Mother, right?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
but
there
we
was
missed that.
Ted Mosby, and one line he had was vomit free since 93. And then later in a flashback in a later episode, they found out that he was lying, so he was never vomit free since 93.
Oh, he wasn't?
No.
I definitely
liar.
was not vomit free since 93,
Yeah,
but
neither
a bit
am I.
later maybe, but no, not since
Maybe
93.
like vomit free since 2014, but that doesn't rhyme. So
Yeah.
I need to figure out a way how to package the message in something that rhymes, because
It's such an important message.
everyone knows that if something rhymes, it's a fact.
It sticks.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a fact. Like when you just rhyme something, and even if people don't agree with it, just because it rhymes, they're like, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, you see, this is a confirmation that my poetry actually matters.
It is.
Then, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm actually reading a book on psychology and they make that very point.
No, wait, for real?
Yes.
Okay. And can you maybe elaborate?
Because it's easier to retain in memory and everything that sticks easier in your mind is automatically more true to you and more acceptable.
Yeah.
That's why lies have to be repeated often in politics because once it sticks, it manifests and becomes true.
But then this is a counter-argument to the fact that there is objectivity, because like how could anything be objective if then it's a selective, okay, it doesn't go that far.
It doesn't imply like, okay, there's no objective truth anymore.
No, because it sounds like that. I mean, if just by the facts that stick in your mind are more truthful than the rest of it,
basically
everything is subjective. This means, I mean.
So basically, if everyone starts talking in rhymes, we're just doomed as a society, because
that would be so beautiful, though. I would love this beauty.
Everyone is going to be lying, but because it'll stick, you'll be like, oh, okay, this is cool.
But what is truth? What
Imagine
is
the chatter on the street.
Are beautiful. No.
You wanna eat? The food smells like shit. I have nothing else.
I'm horrible at rhyming. I won't even try.
You won't get any meat.
Because people are gonna laugh.
Because you're a cheat.
Because you're not feed.
Yes.
Anyway, and you studied in Maastricht.
Yes, indeed. I did.
And
right after, Vienna.
There's something curious that's called the Maastricht syndrome.
The Maastricht syndrome?
Could you elaborate on that?
I think I know of the Maastricht syndrome.
I've never heard
And I know maybe some people know of the Maastricht syndrome too.
What?
But can you really... 93 years old looking good. Yes. That doesn't rhyme though, right? You need to say this.
Lots of wisdom, lots of wisdom, lots of age.
But when we were studying in Maastricht, we were discussing actually the dry spell of Maastricht. That apparently for some reason, and I think it was you, before I went to Maastricht, I think it was you or Nevena. Now I don't know. For those who don't know, Nevena is another friend of ours from Vienna. But one of you told me that when you go to Maastricht, it's just, getting laid and,
it was
being
me.
with other people.
I told you. That's what I've heard from friends of mine,
And I was like, hell yeah. And then I got there, and I mean, it wasn't as dry as I thought it would be. No, the other way. It wasn't as hot as I thought, according to your statement.
Yeah.
But then I got there, and everyone was like, oh, the Maastricht dry spell, like the Maastricht syndrome. And it wasn't that bad. It was kind of like a little bit more to the Maastricht syndrome than to the hotness that you described.
Okay.
But it was fine. But maybe
but the Maastricht syndrome is the opposite, that it's super dry and nothing happens. Or
exactly. That's why I wanted to elaborate.
Really? I'm surprised by that, because really from some friends of mine that have spent some their bachelor years there, shared it's very wild. I don't know. I mean,
maybe if you're bachelor.
That's the fact. It's like in the TV, they assume bachelor, you're the one guy who tries to... Right?
But I think
isn't it
because
different? In the bachelor years and in the master years, it's already another level.
No.
I think it depends, because for example, Maastricht, if you go do a master, and I think in the majority of cases when you study for masters in Maastricht, it's for 1 year.
Right,
so basically during that 1 year, and it's really intense because you don't have semesters, you got periods, and one period is basically like 1 or 2 months. So in total, I think we had like 6 periods, 7, I don't know, but it was like super compressed. So basically you finished on a Friday with one semester, and then the very next Monday, without a break or anything, you already had to read like 60 pages, 70 pages for the next lecture or whatever.
In Vienna it wasn't like that. I mean, in the bachelor it wasn't like the whole February we had free. I couldn't believe that during the year, except for the summer break and everything, you have the whole February free. I mean, it was crazy. And especially when when I was comparing with some friends from the Netherlands, exactly, from The Hague or from England, from the UK. I mean, it's crazy. We had 3 months summer break, this February break. Then we had the April break because of the... Yeah, it's very, very generous.
The whole February off because, why not?
Yeah.
And basically, I don't know about you, but I believe I was getting paid for studying there. We had to pay about 16 euros
for half a year.
Half a year. So basically 32 euros in total. But I get child benefits, which were way more than that. So
what kind of child benefits did you get?
Sorry?
What are these child benefits?
What do you mean?
You got child benefits?
Familienbeihilfe?
Yeah,
Family support. It's like child support money that you get until you're 24 in Austria.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me change this. So it does matter nowadays from which country do you come from. Because, I mean, in Bulgaria there's no such
it always
thing.
mattered.
Like, I know, but because some people claim that it doesn't, I still say we're all from the EU and, you know, from the good countries and everything, but it does matter because
equals and more equals.
like the moment that you became 18 in Bulgaria, like everybody are just scratching you from like all kinds
Your
of benefits or whatever. Yes, and that as well. I mean, everything.
Like
you
a
know?
birthday party is
Like-
the opposite of fun. Oh, bye.
It's a goodbye party.
You're done. Like they celebrate, but without you, like fucking we're done with this person.
We can take her bread.
I've never heard like somebody getting like familien Beihilfe or like the social help or anything just because you're a student. But yeah.
So yeah, that was
cool.
funny.
Yeah.
But you know, like compared with, but okay, so we got the two extremes. Like Maastricht was a lot of work. Like you really had to study, and it was intense, and maybe that's why, you know, the Maastricht syndrome. That's why people didn't really find many opportunities to do something because
to hook up.
you know, hookups, they were mostly stuck in a library. I know for one, I was stuck in a library every now and then, but you know, when there was a test, I basically just went to the library like 2 or 3 days before the test.
Of course.
And I did everything in those 3 days, like no lifing, no food, no sleep, no anything.
Or you were
no
still in the
lifing.
bachelor way of
Yeah. So you know, that's what I mean. Like I think that's why masters is so intense, and that's why I believe, you know, a bachelor shouldn't be so bad, and that's why I think the dry spell should not, or the Maastricht syndrome should not be so significant in Maastricht when you're a bachelor, because in my opinion, it's not. It's the same system.
That's what
it's
I've heard.
periods as well and everything.
That's what I've
But
heard.
I don't think it's as intense. And even if you mess up, well, you'll probably just do it next time. you know.
Yeah.
But this is just 1 year, and you know, like if you mess up this 1 year, you're screwed. And there was also one girl, and she was from Albania, and I believe she messed up one test, but because she was not from the EU. She had to pay, I think, like 17,000, you know, the fee to actually be able to study. And then she messed up one test, and she got so stressed. Like, oh
But
my
that's
god!
so
like,
full.
if I
Can you
mess this
imagine
up
what a
again,
pressure that is?
another
Yes.
17K.
Can you imagine
Boy,
what a pressure
that's
that
a
is?
lot.
Yeah, awful, really. But I've heard also from other friends of mine that studied, but not in Maastricht or in Rotterdam, masters, that it was insanely tough. And again, like 1 year program and really, really tough. So yeah, I mean, I think what you say is completely true. I guess there's just a big difference between the bachelor lifestyle and the master there. So
Okay, sorry, but somebody commented that the Maastricht syndrome is real.
okay.
And then the first question
It's a
is,
confirmation.
what is your guest's opinion on the common fisheries policy?
The common fishery.
Go, sir.
Okay, expert.
Expert interview.
Why am I the expert for common fisheries?
no, they're messing.
Can you read me the username of this person, please?
They're
for love. They are for love.
Okay.
Do you have an enemy, Patrik?
We're gonna find that person.
No, but
Just checking, but I believe that the common fisheries policy is a very important founding stone of the European Union, and if it was not for the fish, then why do we have water?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
more rights to the fish. The fish deserve to have more rights.
No,
Yeah.
eat the fish.
You know, I'm
Be
doing-
solidaric to the fish.
Yeah, duh.
What?
No.
But
Anyway, were there people who were getting late
see?
in your master's degree?
Yeah, of course. Some more, some less, some not even.
They,
But you know, some people they hooked up, and basically, you know, they became boyfriend and girlfriend. So
the
obviously,
long-lasting love.
they were obviously hooking up a lot of times. But yeah, I think it really depends. Like I know people who were doing it more often. I know people who probably didn't do it at all. I guess I was somewhere in the middle.
I have a theory that around 80% of the guys hardly or don't get laid at all. And that's
Why the guys?
because women are more discriminatory when it comes to men than guys are with women.
So wait, so what you're saying is that women had even a lower percentage?
No,
No,
but
a higher percentage of
that the women were more focused on a very small group of the men. You know, that let's say that 50 to 60% of the women were
so
dating
those, they were interested in those 20%.
The top 10
now I get
or
it.
the
Now I
Also, the
get it.
cases the women give you the red light because they're interested in small percentage, but the men they can do compromises, so to say, with
men are more okay with dating down than a woman is with dating down.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, I don't know about dating.
I really don't know. I know that we can.
Okay, well,
How
you're
to
searching
say?
for an answer.
Yeah,
Patrik.
it's
What is the common fisheries policy?
It's a good,
Fishing in
it's a good
such-
segue.
Fishing,
like,
yeah.
fishing. You
And,
know.
Maybe that's what he
In
meant
what
with
sense
common
of the-
fisheries.
Yeah, of the
Okay,
word.
I think the question was way deeper than we
That's
actually
actually, I
thought.
think that's what they meant.
That
Yes,
is-
absolutely.
Yeah. So, too bad they didn't create the common fisheries policy in Maastricht.
Or a quota.
But well, hey,
Dating
maybe
quota.
that's what the Maastricht Treaty was intended for, and then they were like, "Dude, this is way too obvious," so they had to kind of make it look not as obvious as that. I don't know. But actually, do you remember, like Maastricht and like hardcore universities or somewhere like there, like up there. Vienna was like somewhere in the lower tier. But do you remember our Erasmus in Constance?
Yes.
No.
We've been in Germany.
In Germany, in Constance, on Lake Bodensee. Beautiful environment. Really
It's
beautiful.
so
nature.
beautiful
I've been
there.
there.
Yes.
Oh my god, it was so
Several
pretty there.
times, yeah.
You know, and but
was amazing.
but I don't think I've ever chilled more in my life than there because I literally, I shit you not, what I had to do was basically be 4.5 hours in the university and just do nothing. Like, we came to one professor and he got so, well, he didn't get angry, he didn't get pissed or anything, he was just really sad because we were his first class, if I recall correctly. Do you remember? It was in English and it was this German dude.
Yeah.
And
He was a PhD, right?
yeah,
He was a
because
bit-
I think we had only one class together. And that was
That
the
one.
international relations, some stuff, or conflicts in international relations.
Citizens in international.
Citizens in yes, exactly. In like in hindsight,
Yeah.
he was a really good guy. He was a good professor. He was well prepared. He gave us a reasonable workload, I would say. 1-2 texts every now and then. The texts never had more than 20 pages ish.
Oh, okay.
But no one read it nevertheless. And he got so sad at one point. He was
Really?
like, guys, like, what's the point? Like, I'm really trying and just don't care.
Oh,
Because he
that's
was like,
disappointing.
let's do the discussion. Like, let's
Yeah.
discuss a little
And
bit.
nobody wanted to?
No one even tried.
No.
People opened the text like the first time they were there and they were just, like reading from the paper and he knew it. And yeah, he didn't have a good time.
I
He
really
didn't have
feel
a good-
sad about such cases. I don't understand.
It's interesting that you
why.
bring it up because it's
Yeah.
an experience I also had in the bachelor.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we
Yeah.
also had classes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's in
yeah.
every university in the 3 that I've been to.
Me as
That
well.
in
Yeah, I had the
each-
same experience.
Group discussion you have about, again, a small group of people actually who are engaging.
2 or 3 people that actually like
majority is just
participate
there
in
and is using
discussions
air.
and yeah, exactly.
space.
But that's what Maastricht did, in my opinion, really good, because they basically we had like discussions every week, and you had to speak. Like if you didn't speak, the professor made you speak. At
Yeah?
least once, or maybe even twice. Like when they have seen that you're not talking, they were focusing way more on you. So basically, when you were talking a lot, they loved it. Of course, great. But maybe, if they've seen that you wanted to say something, like, maybe hold your thought.
Yeah, hold your thought so that, yes.
What about you? Like, what do you have to say?
Yes, yes.
And basically, that really made me feel absolutely shit if I didn't, have anything to say, or basically, no, badly phrased. Like, I basically always wanted to say something. Because even if I had nothing to say, like I wanted to contribute to the discussion, but I had nothing, I still was really pushing myself and trying to catch on something or anything.
To express
Truth be told,
something.
most of the time I basically very conveniently just summarized someone else's.
What that guy said.
Like they said that and they said that and he said this and I was like, I agree with your point and that was a very interesting contribution and basically you said this. I rest my case, and they were like,
You're very smart, Patrik.
so then
Patrik, you'd be the perfect moderator then. I mean, that's exactly, to jump from like great opinion
but,
and you said very good thing and now you say,
But who knows if I summarized it well, right? So, so
What did they
apparently
say?
it worked. Everybody was like,
So that's another thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically in Maastricht it was impossible. You had to speak.
You had to
and there was
speak?
this one time where I really did not speak. I don't know when it was, but I think it might have been close to my birthday party, around my birthday party, when we just got really wasted and we didn't do anything. Or maybe it was before that, and my birthday was not even, a variable in all of this that we got wasted. But for some reason, I know that once I came there, and I know shit, I didn't even read the things, I didn't do anything, and for some reason, half the class didn't do it either. That's why I'm thinking about my birthday party, because we got really wasted that time. So basically, we had the thing, and we got there, and it was so embarrassing, because we're talking, the professor's talking, but none of us are saying anything. And we're just sitting there, and she's like, well, anyone has to say something about this? Dead class. The brainiacs, like people that always had something to say, I believe even those were like, well, whatever, this time
fuck it,
around,
yeah.
fuck it, like, they just didn't study or whatever. And I felt really bad. And afterwards, I wanted to make up for it.
Yeah.
I don't think I did, but
but at least you wanted to. So.
It's the intention that counts.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. It's the intention that counts.
The thought behind it. That was my whole point actually, that I believe it's based on the system, and if you really want people to talk, I believe you should make them in the smallest groups possible.
Absolutely.
Because if it's a large group, and this is really the case with all of society, it's the shared responsibility. Like we are supposed to talk, not I'm supposed to talk. And the larger the group, the less of a responsibility each of them has, right? So basically, if it's a group of 20 people, then maybe 10 of them will talk. And it's a lot. It's a big group. 10 people. When 10 people discuss, that's a lot. And basically,
10 people is a lot. 10 people can't talk. 10 people
exactly.
It's not necessary to be.
So you don't really even notice that the other people are not really talking. So that's why I believe the smaller the group, the better. 10 people max.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
or even less. Depending on the topic, right?
Like seriously, I believe 6 to 8 people is perfect.
Exactly.
For a really healthy, good discussion. If you want to do something like that.
Exactly. Well, they said with the focus groups, how was it? It has to be minimum 5. And maximum 10, I think, people. With the focus groups, like the research methods, when you do a focus group, and that's because this is exactly the number between 5 and 10 people that the perfect discussion can occur, which basically the focus group is.
Okay.
So it's exactly like that, like 5 to maximum 10 people would be the best. And absolutely, I think this will be a great motivation, for people to participate a bit more. And sometimes, I don't know, I get a bit sad thinking that, like, not only you spend your time in the university, in many cases you even put money into that, or your parents, and then you just like go through it without, I don't know, showing engagement and without.
Well, should that many young people study?
Well,
when we're talking about that,
that's the thing.
Because many young people study.
I believe that you should really study if you're interested in what you're pursuing to study or what you're studying. Otherwise, like, it's just a kind of loss of time and kind of pushing yourself, to do something that, like, maybe it's not. But the thing is that there is not, like, nowadays we can't speak about should I study or not, because having a university degree is kind of a mandatory thing.
That's not true. There's a huge demand for people who have learned a trade. For example, there's even a lack of people who have learned trades.
For what kind of a for what kind of jobs? How much would these people earn? Everybody
they would earn more than somebody who studies sociology.
You would be surprised.
Yes.
An electrician, or maybe someone like a carpenter or people like this. Like there's. Because everyone is trying to do now, and that was the case when I was in my high school, everyone wanted to be a lawyer or a manager.
I think
there was 80% of that, and everyone was like, I want to be the top dog, like I want to earn the big cash. And they decided that the way to do so is a manager or a lawyer. So basically all of these people somehow blindedly followed the path that everyone else was taking because they felt like that's going to be easy. And it's not the most difficult thing. Maybe lawyer, it's kind of difficult. But basically, they just follow suit. They follow everyone else. And there's a lack of exactly people who are, you know, working manually, and some of these are actually the highest paid jobs without a degree. Exactly, like an electrician or something. Actually, an elevator electrician is super well paid. You would be surprised. You just know
Aren't those things going to be managed by AI and everything like in the next couple of years? I mean, what are you really talking about? Because I really don't. I don't think it's going
I don't know about
based
the
on
others.
what?
Or
Based
on my experience. I mean, based on the country where I come from, at least, like having no university degree puts you in a position where you barely can meet ends and meet.
That's not true, because many Bulgarians they go into other countries if they would have those qualifications, and they earn good money in Western Europe.
In other countries, working like shit and living their families. I mean, yes,
they have...
and then if they go to Germany and everything, they earn some money. But we're still talking about the potential to stay. You know, for example, in Bulgaria, they can't earn any money. I mean,
but it's not about Bulgaria.
No,
I'm
just saying that it's not always the case. It depends where you are, you know. And if you're in a good country, you know, with a stable economy, and maybe not so much like social class division, then maybe if you pursue like skills outside the university, you still would be able to build up a normal living and, you know, to sustain it. But in many other countries, it's not like that.
But I think this is very relevant, because what is happening, these jobs are becoming
and
so
I still
well
think
paid.
that they will be automated in a couple of years. I don't know why you say 30 years. I believe that it's maximum 10.
Based on necessarily.
Based on what I have seen, I mean, what I have read,
How can you automate, for example, an electrician for the elevator?
You would need to create like a robot who would fly from place to place and fix elevators, you know, like... It's kind of unfeasible. I mean, you could have the machine, even as a carpenter, you could have a machine that cuts the wood and exactly the shape, but I believe there needs to be like a human actually putting it all together, or maybe something. And nevertheless, I don't think a machine can create exactly the same things that like a human can do.
Especially those jobs, they won't go away, because the people who can work, who is an electrician for an elevator, those people are capable, also would be able to be an electrician for a machine, for a robot.
Course, yeah.
You know, so there will be even more demand for people who can be electricians.
And I think this is the point, because this whole thing is very relative. I mean, these jobs are getting so well paid nowadays because exactly the things you say is the norm that everyone has. Like, I gotta have a university, because people assume that university is like a standard. You need to have a university in order to at least get a job interview. Truth be told, most of the cases it is like that, but exactly because everyone thinks like this, not everyone else does the other jobs, and because there's a shortage of this, they can demand a higher salary. So, like someone who, I don't know, like all sorts of things that you do with your hands, with your skills.
I don't know such people. Do you know such people? Because
but it's not about if you know them or not.
Because I know many people that do windows, washing machines, and everything, and they're broke as fuck, and they
So if you order a technician who comes to support this machine, you pay them 70 euros only to come, or 100 euros, and you pay them per hour 40 or 50 euros.
Yeah. I had a broken modem, and I was lucky that it was in the first 2 months that I got it, because afterwards I would have paid around like 50 euros for 1 hour. Just that the guy comes and he checks it and he, you know, does his magic, and that's 50 euros for 1 hour. Man, that's a lot of money for 1 hour.
But they don't go, all of the money, I guess, don't go to the guy.
It goes to the company as well.
I mean, it goes to the company, right?
Yeah, obviously.
But if you compare it to the hourly rate of somebody
I mean, I'm just saying my point.
Somebody who has an office job, they don't earn that hourly wage in most cases.
But yeah, I think unfortunately we're coming to a point where really people are being overqualified, because everyone tells you need to study, you need to have the best university and everything, and I believe it's, you know, it's correlated with the point that we're just being overpopulated as a planet. There's just so many people, and the competition is just ridiculously high, and you always need to be 5 steps ahead to be better. That we're all coming to the same level. I mean, in Greece and in Spain and all these southern countries that had troubles after the financial crisis, like nowadays they got like 25 to 50% unemployment in the youth. It's ridiculous. People finish school, they get off, university, they get out into the world, and they just can't find a job because they were just overqualified and they got no experience, and maybe they're indebted because they had to take a loan in order to, you know, get a place to study, and because most of the time it's not in the same place with your parents. So, you know,
it's not even qualification in many ways. It's just a degree, right?
It's
but
like
are you really qualified?
It's like a tick. Like, you just need to have this.
Are you really fit to do much? Like, how could you help anyone, you know? How could you make anyone's life better? How could you solve anyone's problems with some generic degree?
I believe it's just a tick nowadays. Like, they just see your CV and they're like, yep, there's a master's degree or there's a bachelor's degree. Like, bachelor's degree. Who cares? No one cares about your bachelor's degree. They just want to see the master. And, well, you need to do the master's. Excuse me, the bachelor's if you want to do the master's. So, it's like a tick. And I can see it. Like, I was looking for, I had a lot of interviews before the summer, or actually still during the summer. And it did not matter. Like, you could have whatever on your CV when it comes to your studies, and you could still get whatever. Because I was the guy, like, anything that I barely 1% could have imagined I would be doing the job, I was like, screw it. And I just sent my CV and my motivation letter and everything. And I got an interview at a company that deals with plastics. I study political science and European studies. Why would they care about me? You know, it doesn't matter. Like, you could study whatever.
It's not the camera. Yeah.
Yeah, you could study whatever.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah. No, I don't. But you could study whatever and still get any sort of job. I mean, obviously, it categorizes you in a little bit of way, but I don't think it's necessarily preconditioned that if you want to, you know. I mean,
so many people switch actually there. I mean, they study something, and afterwards it turns out that in their lives they do something completely different. Yeah. I know many such cases, and yeah.
Is that why young people are so unhappy? Because statistically, young people are more unhappy than they were 30, 40 years ago.
Overall, I think in society there's such a high percentage of depressed people because maybe it's correlated with the fact that, you know, because the competition is just so high that they can always increase the standards because, like I said, you always need to be 5 steps ahead of someone else in order to, you know, get the position. And even if you get it, you need to be, you know, whatever they throw at you, you need to take it because there will always be someone who will take the job and do it maybe even better than you. Maybe they won't be bitching as much as you. Like, you know, they will find someone for sure. So basically, you know, that's why you feel like I can be grateful that I got this job because, you know, what would I do? Someone else would take it in my stead. And then they might not pay you as much because they can always reduce it because there's such a high demand for this job. They can give you a higher thing. So I think people are just really worn out from just working. And matter of fact, with the Maastricht syndrome and everything, maybe we go full circle. But I read a study the other day that people overall, like the millennials, I don't like these classifications of millennials and these generations, but you know, like people of our generations, apparently they don't really get laid because they, first of all, don't have money. They don't really have, you know, time, and they just don't really mess around with other people for some reason.
That's also what I wanted to allure earlier. Exactly, that many people are also not getting laid, or only a small percentage of people.
Yeah. It's a fact. It really is a fact nowadays for some reason, and I don't think that was the case before. But I think there would come to another point, which is our, you know, digitalization, our new age with social media and all these new toys that we have, because people don't necessarily have to be together physically in order to socialize. You can just make a group and you just chat around the whole evening. And maybe people who work such a long time and they really worn out after a whole day, they might not want to go out. They go home and maybe they chat with their friends, maybe they Skype, maybe they play video games, maybe, you know, they do whatever, but they're still kind of socializing. And that's why, because they don't go out, they don't physically manipulate, you know, like be with people. They don't find girls and boys they might like and they might start, you know, flirting or whatever. Like, it just like, you know, it's like a spiral. You just go downwards. Exactly, because I read that one of the most intense periods when people were getting laid was under communism. No way. Yeah. In Eastern Germany, they were saying it was like it was a public sport because they didn't know what else to do. They had nothing else to do. I mean, they had their jobs, but there was no other public entertainment. There was no
you didn't have much TV technologies, right? So all you could do was actually just be with other people and get laid often.
Do we have some interesting comments?
Yes.
Can you read them?
One was, how does your guest feel about marijuana legislation?
What? Can you please, can our commenter please elaborate on the what?
No, it should be legal, of course.
Oh, God.
And he says some technicians make tons of money. Exactly, HVAC.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That was more a general comment.
Yeah, true. Was it the same commenter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same person.
A very active person making 6 comments.
Yeah, I like this. Why not? Yeah, that's how it should be.
Maybe it's one of your friends.
Oh, I think I know who it is. But can you read it again? I'm really now curious. What the hell is it?
Which one?
The Marina.
The name?
The Marina.
Marijuana.
Oh, okay.
No, about the marijuana, yeah.
The marijuana.
It was Maria.
Mariana. But I think about
clear,
that
yeah.
legislation, well, that's the thing. There is not really a legislation, or I mean, there's a legislation against it, right?
Yeah, what sort of?
Yeah, there is decriminalization.
But the police doesn't care, as far as I can tell.
That's decriminalization.
From what I heard from a friend.
Yeah. Also, a friend of mine
Again,
told
it
me
depends
that
on where you come from.
Also, a friend of mine told me that here in Belgium they.
No, here in Belgium they're
care.
fine.
No.
Yeah.
No, but the police has other things to worry about.
Most likely.
You know.
Yeah. And wait, I wanted to say something to the point before
Explosive
that people
times.
are working a lot and everything.
Earning money, not getting late.
I think I lost the point, but yeah.
Young people not getting late.
I think it's just, one element always enriching the other, and the whole thing is just increasing, and
So it's like a downward spiral
Yeah,
of people
yeah.
not getting laid.
and people just getting depressed and everything, and yeah.
But then what will happen to civilization? Because you have, on the other hand, you have also many people migrating to Europe who have much higher birth rates than the Europeans.
I don't know. It's really curious to see, but I see that we can already see some sort of, I don't know, is backlash the right word? Is backlash the right word? Like, like this is happening. Oh, the Grimberg piece. Shit.
Keep on talking.
Yeah, so, bro, don't break the beer. It's gonna explode now when you give it to me.
Yeah, wait a moment. But it's also not that cold.
Yeah, because I put it when he arrived. But maybe we
give it for a moment.
Or maybe...
Do you want to have one of these that are cold?
No, this is, guys, this is...
So, where were we?
Dude, my beer just came.
Very good. Oh, he was saying, you were saying that there is like a backlash to the migration, or not to
Well, obviously, I mean, we can see the populism around Europe, right?
Oh, but that's yeah. I don't
Wasn't
think
that
there is a
calculated?
backlash. Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't that calculated?
How do you
With
mean
this
that it was
migrant
calculated?
global pact now?
Because I'm pretty sure that most European leaders, and Merkel, for example, knew in 2015 what was gonna happen in the summer, because over 1 million people moved across the Balkans to Central Europe, and you cannot tell me that nobody would notice that, because it really hit the fan once they reached Germany, because then they were unprepared and the whole chaos ensued.
Yeah,
You know, but
sort of Hungary as well.
And what I'm saying is that it's very suspicious to me that they definitely knew that this mess was coming,
Yeah,
and that nothing was done.
I don't think no one really, tries to deny that fact.
So it almost sounds to me like there is
my take
something
on
weird
this-
going on.
It's like they created the populism, or I mean, they knew that the populism will be the normal reaction
Nah,
to it,
my
and they
take-
let it happen in a way. Because to me, it seems so. Because it's absolutely clear what will be the reaction, at least by some part of the society that is a bit more conservative. And here in Europe, unlike the US, we do have our conservative roots. If you compare the two systems. So for me, it was absolutely clear that there is going to be a wave of what they call now populism. Of course, after such a big change and after such a reaction to it, Or?
I don't know. My take on all of this is that more or less it was Merkel sort of taking initiative in all of this, and I think she acted from a German-oriented point of view because basically, you know, Germany, like the demographic pyramid is increasing and increasing. There's a lot of old people, not many young people who are going to make for their pensions. So basically they need young people who are going to work as a labor force or anything, basically. Who
are these people?
And, sorry?
The migrants? They are the young people who are going to work?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what she's thinking. That's
what I'm saying. From Merkel's point of view, this is what I believe. Very weird point of view. She was
economical reasons.
Because this was one of the reasons. But I think the main reason behind this, and I can understand this, was that basically, if 2015, ISIS was really strong and everything, and basically. And I really agree with this point. Merkel really did more damage to ISIS with letting the migrants in than a million rockets would do, because how can you then say to, in some ISIS camp and you're training, terrorists or whatever, and you say, like, let's go to Europe and let's do some shit, like, they don't like us, they do bad things to us. And then Merkel said, all migrants are welcome here. How could, like, even the stupidest person would be like, well, but... is it though? Like we're trying to be against them, and basically they let us in. They want to be good to us. They give us food. They give us shit.
But these people, they don't follow the logical reasoning.
That's another thing. That's another thing.
It's an indoctrination.
There we come to cultures, but I don't want to focus on that. What I want to focus on that from like Germany's point of view, they underestimated Eastern Europe, and they thought Eastern Europe is either a good pal that will do anything they're being told, or they thought they're so integrated that they're the same as Western Europe, or I don't know. But they definitely did underestimate Eastern Europe in the thing that communism really did change those nations and their way of thinking for a long ass time. And in my opinion, it was a really good vaccine to bullshit, maybe I would say. Now I'm not saying that everything that the West is doing is bullshit, of course not. But what I'm saying is that these people think differently, and they will always have their own specific point of view, because they just came from a union where they were being told what they need to do, or otherwise they're gonna have trouble, and they came into a new union where they're basically being told the same, like you need to let the migrants in, or we're gonna kick your butt with not giving you voting rights or whatever. And
it's very well put. Really, it is like that. Yeah.
So basically, these people are sort of immune to this. I mean, Czechoslovakia, for example, back in the days, like they wanted to be more liberal. They wanted to be more open. What happened? Moscow sent tanks from all the Warsaw Pact or whatever it was, and they basically marched into Czechoslovakia. Actually, there was just 50-year anniversary the other day, and in August, I believe.
The Velvet Revolution.
No, Velvet Revolution was the fall of communism, and this is the Prague Spring, I think.
But Prague Spring,
Prague Spring, where basically, it was like Czechoslovakia wanted to create a communism sort of with a human face. They called it at least that. And there really were communists with, I believe they had good intentions. They wanted to make something like today China is doing. Like, it is communism, socialism. Communism never was, right? It is socialism, but basically with capitalistic and democratic elements and aspects. Like, the economy would be way more capitalized, and it would be more open to the world, and the politics wouldn't be like, censorship wouldn't be so hardcore, and they would kind of ease on things. Well, Moscow heard of this, and they were like, bro, no way. And they just sent tanks, like, literally overnight. I remember my grandmother telling me that she woke up, she wanted to go to the store, buy some stuff, buy some food, and boom, fucking huge tank in front of the store. She's like, yeah, this probably shouldn't be here.
You made the wrong turn, bro.
The tank like, oh, grandma, what is the direction?
But it was exactly like that,
So, so this that happened in Eastern Europe, I think that changed those countries for generations to come. And maybe, well, obviously they view things in a different way. And that's why I think that if we want to work, at least as a EU together, we need to acknowledge this, that we are not the same. And we'll never probably be the same. Like, we're saying one European nation, but Not
Yes,
really,
yes.
not really, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's not like, oh, we can't move on forward because we're different. Of course we can. Why couldn't we? That's bullshit that we can. We just need to acknowledge
Because
these
we have
differences.
different strengths, absolutely. I mean, we
Absolutely,
have. It's not
and-
necessary to be absolutely identical. It's about knowing which nation has its weaknesses and strengths. It's like a person. I mean, like just an individual. You have your weaknesses and strengths, and you use your strengths to unite with the others. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how. Yeah, I also believe that it should be. And what you say, I agree completely. I mean, we should just acknowledge our differences and see how we can collaborate on that. Yeah.
I mean, really,
level.
maybe
Yeah.
only the original founding 6 members of the coal and steel thing, they might be maybe more similar together. Benelux probably the most.
Yeah.
Germany. I mean, come on, even Germany, like East and West Germany, you can still see the differences.
You can,
they're
yeah.
still really sharp. And I think in Germany you can see the best that people in the East or from the former East are way more conservative. They're way more.
Reserved,
suspicious.
yeah,
Reserved,
somehow,
exactly.
yeah.
They don't really want foreigners. A little bit
Yes.
xenophobic. They don't like this, and
The Western bar is totally liberal and crazy.
and I just I'm not saying, I'm not judging or anything. I'm not pointing fingers. Someone did this. Someone did that thing. But why can't, if someone doesn't want something, then pushing won't solve anything.
Yeah,
If they want it, of course, go for it. Hell yeah. But if maybe you should do this. Come on. You want to do this? No, I don't want, bro. So and that creates some tension, and that creates the cleavages. And
But
even the southern
politics
countries.
has always been built on pushing your, your solution, pushing your interest, pushing your position.
But that's in power,
It's always
right?
been- yeah,
Then we come
that's
to
the
the
power
point of power.
relations.
Like
yeah,
if someone can do
absolutely.
something and they want to do it, they'll probably do the most they can do to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And that's just realpolitik. That's why I'm like, you can't point fingers at this because that's just business as usual.
It's business, it's
everyone
absolutely
wants
business.
to achieve their goals. Everyone wants to do
To serve
what
their interests
what-
and yeah.
Obviously. So yeah.
Yeah.
But there's always then this disingenuous argument that they say, for example, regarding Hungary, if they don't agree with the solidarity approach, then why do they take the EU's money? Right?
Yeah.
Have you read that?
But they also give money to
But they say if Orban, for example, doesn't agree with what the EU wants of him, then he should also stop taking the EU's money.
But you know why they will never do
it
this?
doesn't make any sense to
It
me.
does.
They also
They will never do this.
I know.
Because when I was working in the commission, basically I've seen the operational programs and the money that was invested into the new countries and Eastern Europe countries and everything. 80% of that money that was invested returned to those countries that invested the money in the first place.
Exactly.
So obviously, if they cut this money, it will cost them.
Yeah, it goes into the companies of those countries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because, in the end, we are a European Union. So basically, our economies are hugely intertwined. And basically, if one economy is thriving, my economy will be thriving as well, most probably. I mean, hell, Slovakia's economy is literally bound on Germany. If Germany is going to be shit, Slovakia is going to be shit. And Slovakia is doing really, economically, at least, well. Because Germany is doing really well. And once Germany is going to be shit, Slovakia is going to be shit.
Mm-hmm.
And,
interdependence, yeah.
it's the interdependence. So basically, they will be like, well, we won't give you money if you don't do as we want you to do. And I'm 100% certain Hungary will say, go for it. Their pride is so big that they will much rather let the money go and, do what they want to do rather than, bow and take the money and let go of what they want to do. It's just the way it is. And there we come again to the different, mindsets, to the different,
And I'm not sure that there's even a way to reject the money. Because if it's already planned in the EU budget, I don't believe there's any mechanism for even refusing the money that has been allocated.
That's why they're, now with the new budget, 21, 27, things will change big time. And also, in my opinion, many of these Eastern European countries are way corrupted, super corrupted.
It's good that you bring it up because I actually wanted to mention the fact that in Bulgaria there has been this journalist that was reporting on
I've heard
corruption
of it.
regarding EU funds and they murdered her.
Yeah.
And also
I've monitored Juncker's speech the other day on this. Yeah.
And also in Slovakia, a journalist was murdered.
Yeah. And also in Malta a while before as well.
But in Malta, at least, is the only case where they actually admitted that the journalist was murdered because of the investigations that the journalist was doing, the woman in Malta. Because in Slovakia, they actually in the end concluded that it was not he was not murdered because of his work. And in Bulgaria, now they don't still have the official statement, but this will be the conclusion that she was not murdered because of her work. Is just some psychopath person.
It was suicide.
The same as the Slovakian one, and it's just a disgrace. Only the Maltian one, who actually died, I think, because the car was blew up. Her car was blown up?
The one from Malta?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, Well, it was, kind of obvious that it's related to her work, so I guess,
Maybe it was a creative suicide.
Yeah, it was a crazy, rapist who blew up her car so that he can go to the morgue and rape her after
But
that.
even in Slovakia, like they iced his girlfriend too.
I know.
And they tossed their corpses in front of the house. Like,
I know, and they conclude it's not related to the work.
It's just ice
Can you
cold.
imagine? Yeah. The woman was like shit, kidnapped, and in the end suffocated.
Oh shit,
Yes, in the end. I mean, after all of the beating and the raping, which is crazy as well. Yeah. But
yeah, that sucks. But I just to me, it's just mind-boggling. Like, how can this shit didn't really happen in Slovakia even 10 years ago? In Slovakia. Yeah, actually, the secret evidence is found him. If you check things, you can always see that everyone pulled Hungary in '99 already, and they started because they were we had this crazy shit going on, and no one really wanted to mess with Slovakia.
Yeah.
The president's son, and
it's a crazy child in the kindergarten.
He was like a grown-up man. He was like the president was 6 years old.
Slovakia is the crazy child.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah, kind of. They're like, bro, like it's the rabies, like, you know, you get them too. So, like that was happening in the 90s, and basically, as far as I believe, there was bad blood, but not as many people got, killed. But here, you ice cold just murder someone, a journalist, just like that, and you say, oh, it was not politically motivated.
Exactly.
Because he was.
Right.
But it was funny because in Slovakia, that the Slovakian government has ties to like Italian mafia and whatever, and this is just pure coincidence. I believe it is, but the new prime minister is called Pellegrini.
Wasn't he on something?
And if you're bored, you can check out a video with the new prime minister. I think he was not appointed even a month. And there was the prime minister, and there was his buddy from another coalition party, and they were just discussing whatever, and he wanted to pull out, so his coalition partner was talking, and the prime minister, while still on camera, he wanted to just pull out his phone and just do whatever, some biz. And as he pulls it out, a little baggie that suspiciously looked like a bag of cocaine just fell out of his pocket. And he didn't see it at first, he was just derping with the phone.
It's like,
hide that shit.
That's so
hide that shit. And you see, okay, and he just continued with the interview. And the guy, the prime minister was on his phone, and and then they asked him, like, what was it? And he said that it was a toothpick. Because, sometimes toothpicks in restaurants, they're like this... very, thin little packages.
My God, of course it was a toothpick.
And I believe it was like a little bag of Coke, like, it was like a very small amount of it left, and he just rolled the bag. I don't buy that shit. I mean, come on. I would have promised you have a toothpick. Come on, man.
It was cool. That's
it was cool as hell.
But everybody
was
Coke.
Coke.
Yeah.
And even, actually, I might have believed it if I didn't see the reaction of the other guy.
Yes. The other guy totally told you.
See that he was just doing the interview and
Oh no, so cool. Oh,
so yeah, good times in Slovakia. So how shit like this, murdering journalists and things like
I just want to say that in both a remarkable thing, I think, or at least when I have told some other people, it was much worse still. But that's normal, it was our mafia period after the communism. Exactly, they were privatizing stuff and exactly. But attacks against serious. I mean, she had like a TV show for investigative journalism for years and years in prime time on the TV, and then they were throwing acid in their faces.
Holy shit!
3 or 4 cases, and it was not. It was so severe because it was not a murder case. Those people, of course, survived, but they were, completely. They didn't have faces, and that's like it was such a message. It was really a message of like, don't mess with us. We have absolutely no limits, and seen something similar, but then there was this silence, this pause period where like the such things were not happening. Exactly. When we started in the 2000s to like talk about joining the EU, and then we joined in 2007, and so there was like a pause, and everything looked normal. But now somehow I feel like it's been coming back.
Yeah, integrated well.
We're already integrated. We're there, so
the money is flowing and. Now you don't have to pretend it much anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's proven that conditionality works the best if the country is not in the EU. And that's why there's been a big discussions on Bulgaria and Romania, because they've been... I don't think anyone really denies the fact that they've been put in the EU prematurely.
Completely.
I think they should have joined with Croatia, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No offense.
No.
Because really, these countries, like, you can still see they're holding a shorter stick in the EU, and not a bad thing, obviously. I mean, someone has to be at the very end of the EU.
But the Russian influence, I think they were very much afraid of the Russian influence, and that they had to react quickly, because otherwise Russia would have swollen us even more. It was kind of the crossroad, of what will happen in Eastern Europe.
Like,
exactly, the 2000s.
Exactly. Let's take them
exactly.
in.
So I think it was simply a strategy of spreading your influence, and they had to make a compromise with. Yeah. That's why Romania and Bulgaria are the only countries that have been under intense monitoring. We are still, I think, Romania not anymore, about corruption, legal system, and everything, even though it's like a national deal. So we have
Romania especially. So we will hear in next week's podcast.
Yes, but I think that because this is like an annual monitoring, that only us, the two countries, had to prepare it for the EU, and I think that it dropped I don't think Romania is doing it in the last 2-3 years. Maybe now they all actually. I don't know when to write it yet, but we're still doing it. They're still, looking us under the loop, although...
I'm not surprised.
I mean, they
and did you know?
Together, so.
Because we also talked about NATO, because most Eastern European countries went into NATO before they joined the EU.
Yeah.
That there were promises to the Russians that NATO wouldn't expand eastwards when the Soviet Union collapsed.
I've heard of this.
There were.
Now, because until recently they... Yeah, put on Patrik, it's okay. Until recently, the NATO was actually denying that fact, and they even made a section on their website where it says NATO and Russia setting the record straight, and all it does is refuting some things which are actually true, but they just portray them in a way that makes NATO look good and the Russians look bad. And one of those things is that they denied that those promises were made, and only recently they opened some archives and they saw some diplomatic notes, and it's actually right there on paper that in fact they made promises to the Russians that there would be no eastward expansion.
Yeah, I heard of this. I think when we were studying in Maastricht, we had some discussions on this, and I think that's why Russia reacted so harshly when Georgia and Ukraine got really close to NATO. Because coincidentally, both of those countries had a partnership agreement a few weeks before they got sort of separatist movements, coincidentally.
No. There's no coincidence.
Yeah, but I mean, logically, you know, back to the realpolitik point of view, like, you feel threatened, like your main competitor has the option of being literally on your doorstep. You don't really want that, right? So I can understand the logic that, you know, these harsh reactions to this, but my take on this is that, you know, I think the West kind of blew their chance in the 90s with Russia, because they were like, you know, they were literally measuring their dicks in the Cold War, like, who has more nuclear bombs in your nutsack, like, who's got the biggest nutsack in the turf.
Nuclear nutsack, literally. And you know, so basically they were measuring their nutsacks and their dicks and everything. And then, you know, Soviet Union collapsed due to multiple reasons. And I think the West, instead of kind of maybe, because I believe, you know, Russia was sort of like this thing, you know, like their union, you know, collapsed, like they lost about 14 other countries which were there. And really, I mean, Soviet Union, like, how many countries were there in total? You had the Baltic states, which are 3. You had Belarus, Moldova, Ukraine. The stans.
You had Russia. You had stans, and I believe there's 4 stans.
Yeah.
Counting correctly.
Uzbekistan.
Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. So
5 stans.
There you go. So dude, that was the biggest
huge
countries ever existing. Probably the British Empire was larger than that, but, you know, there was an empire.
Point. Yeah.
But yeah, that's my point. Like, you know, like they crumbled. Like, the whole shit just fell down. Shit hit the fan. And instead of, you know, I believe they were like this person that just sobered up and woke up from a huge fucking hangover into a totally confusing world, and they don't really know what they're gonna do. And instead of other people being like, hey, like, you know, let's hang out maybe, other people were like, ha. Fuck you.
Right, exactly.
And you know, like, that maybe might have been like, well, then I won't really look outwards, much more look inwards. And basically that resulted in it being like, instead of focusing on other things that I could maybe do and maybe be a partner and maybe, you know, it focused on being the same thing that worked before and just try to make it modern, maybe. You understand what I'm trying to say?
And the situation in post-Soviet Russia was insane. I mean, in the 90s, the deflation...
That was pure anarchy, man.
Yeah, the people were able to buy huge companies for a few shillings because the inflation was that insane, the money was that worthless, they were just throwing away the stocks of the companies.
And
that's how some people got very rich.
There was privatization.
Exactly,
so
very chaotic privatization.
But I think privatization messed up all the Eastern European countries or former Eastern European countries in a way that, you know, if you worked for the country and you had contacts and you knew your buddies and you knew that they're gonna sell that shit, and before they make it public, they already make a deal with you that you're gonna buy it, and then they just make it public because to make it official. But obviously you get it, then basically it, in a way, still is a national, you know, thing. That basically it never left from the state national itself because a super close friend of the state owns it. And the ties are just really, really, really close. The same shit happened in Slovakia. I mean, the highest society, the highest class in Slovakia nowadays are basically people who, how to say,
profited off.
That's the word I was looking for. They profited on the privatization to the absolute maximum potential. So basically the things that were, you know, they belonged to the state, they didn't go further away than to maybe 10 friends of yours. Because it's, you know.
So you went from a dictatorship in a way to an oligarchy?
Sort of.
Because the average person never had any chance, right, of
obviously not
profiting of that.
They made you think you did, but you didn't.
Or they made even the West think, maybe, because maybe to the...
It's like so that on paper, if everyone ever looks at it, on paper it looks nice. But obviously everyone knows that it's wrong. But how are you gonna argue with this if on paper it looks nice? You know what I'm saying? I mean, Laura probably knows as well.
Yeah,
about
it's
these
absolutely
things.
like that.
Better than me.
It's completely oligarchy, and they bought like fabrics and important production facilities and everything, like for pennies, really, when it was changing.
Pennies,
And
literally.
at least in our case, I'm not sure that it's the case with Slovakia. Many of them were just shut down. And so basically, I mean, and that's why we don't have any production now. But yeah, and this gave the rise to the mafia, and those were just people chosen by the party who knew that the system will change. So, and they appointed, in our case at least, the most stupid people. They gave them a little bit of money so that they can fake out completely, like a theater, that they buy all of the stuff. But actually, the influence and the power was still, with the previous party people, which kind of switched to the democracy, but they remained there. I mean, all of the parties that were formed were actually, the ex-communist people who were in the party. And at least in our case, though, what contributed to the whole process, and then the criminal state that prevails until now, is that during communism they absolutely took advantage, and they killed our aristocracy and our elite. They killed them literally. They just slaughtered them. They put them into camps and everything. Everything that was when communism hit, basically, like most of the
40s,
people.
after Second World War.
Yes, after Second World War, they when the communism came, and under Russia basically orders, but also Bulgaria, with their spies there. They killed everyone they took the money from the rich people, of course, and from the richer people, from our higher class, from our kings. Before that, when we had still the kings and everything, from these family clans and everything.
Wasn't it Romania? Did Bulgaria also have kings after the Second World War?
No, not after the Second World War, but before that. I mean, exactly during the wars, a little bit before that.
Okay.
Until you became members of the USSR.
Exactly, until we became the members of the USSR.
You never were a member of the USSR. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? Of the Soviet Union?
Yeah.
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria never was a member of the USSR.
We were their main... What? We were their main...
Look it up. Bulgaria never was... There was a satellite state, but it was Bulgaria. It was socialist Bulgaria.
It was Bulgaria, but I mean that we were under Soviet...
Influence, obviously, of course.
And complete...
But it was never USSR.
It wasn't
the
called...
states that we mentioned a while ago.
No, wait.
Keep on talking.
It was Bulgaria.
Sure.
It was Bulgaria, yes, but we still had... like a communist party, and we still had like the Russians, who were like even their agents that are sent to Bulgaria. They were on the political level in the party, like quite strong. But we were Bulgaria, indeed, we were still. Bulgaria is part of the Soviet republic.
Satellite state, Patrik is
exactly as a satellite state. That's how in English it's
called.
The one thing that was
overarching all of these socialistic countries was the Warsaw Pact.
Yeah.
But I had a research the other day when I was still studying, and I was writing why was the revolution in Czechoslovakia so peaceful while the revolution in Romania was just so violent and so many people died. And I don't want to get to that, but my point is that I found out that basically when the Prague Spring happened, when all the Warsaw Pact countries invaded Czechoslovakia, Romania was the only one that didn't do it. They had like a guy there, and the leader was named Ceausescu, if I pronounce it correctly. Ceausescu. And apparently he was a I don't know.
He was a brutal dictator.
Obviously.
But
very much for Romanian interests.
He was the only one who had the balls, and he was fuck
was
you,
very focused
I'm not
on
gonna
Romania,
send my shit to Czechoslovakia, why should I?
Yeah.
And Moscow was like, well, okay, I guess.
Yeah, we're already busy with this one country, right?
Like, well, we got the other countries doing their thing, so I guess you can go. But I guess Tito did the same thing, no? Tito was like,
he was, even though Tito was famously known for surviving many assassination attempts by Stalinist agents. Because they found...
them now, he was like, bring it on, man.
I believe when he died, they found a note in his desk that was addressed to Stalin, and it said, "Stop sending me assassins."
Very cool.
But just to get back to what we talked about, yes, Patrik was right and you were right, because we had a number of USSR aligned countries namely Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, Romania, but they were aligned and not part of the USSR.
Yeah,
They were members of the... Exactly, they were...
But I didn't mean, you know...
And they were members of the Warsaw Pact, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But they were not...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But wasn't Romania still a kingdom until, you know...
With Ceausescu or...
No, obviously.
Yeah.
Once communism hit, it was definitely not a kingdom.
No.
But if I remember correctly, it was a kingdom until the Second World War, and I don't know if they still were after the Second World War.
No.
Probably not.
No, but because
all the structures were totally destroyed with the war.
After the Second World War, exactly, the communism came in immediately. I mean,
I would check what Romania does.
I know it was at least 2 years in Czechoslovakia until communism hit.
wait a second, it was immediate.
What do you mean immediate? After the Second World War?
Excuse me?
When you say it was immediate, right after the Second World War?
Yeah, even during.
It was like a year or two, no?
Even with us, it was even
but
during.
But the king resigned, or what was
because we were on the side of the Germans, but they pressured us, the Russians, a lot, and Germany was already weak, so they kind of already...
Many kingdoms perished during that time, because, for example, Yugoslavia was also a kingdom before, right? And then after the World War, it was just... a socialistic republic.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, the First World War was also a breaking of empires and of kingdoms, and then with the second one, it was completely finished, I believe. But I don't know about Romania. I don't think it was a kingdom after that. I think definitely after the Second World War, it was already.
Pull that up. I'm pulling up the history.
Bring it out.
Yeah, we all started. We started from the point where I said that they killed our aristocracy. It's interesting because we were actually, or at least so I have heard from my parents, and I haven't checked it alone. I mean, if you want to check this information, you know, but I've heard that we were one of the first, like the countries on top that after, you know, the Second World War, even though we were on the side, I mean, exactly because we were on the side of the Germans, we had most assassinations, you know, ordered by the party. I mean, when communism came and the one-party system, they got rid of so many. I mean, even people who were not at all related to politics or Nazism, they just used it as a pretext to put them in the camps to get to the people with the money, because they realized that even though you change the economy, even if you take the ownership of these people, they still were, you know, it was different. I mean, it was somehow they were educated, they were really like, I don't know, capable people, you know. So they decided to just like, oh no, I mean, it's not enough to just take away their houses. It's not enough to take away their ownership, you know, and everything. We just have to take care of them in the. Yeah, once and for all.
Sense.
So we had many killings, like much more like a purge, you know, an after-war purge.
But I think this was just all over the place. I remember my history professor was telling me one of the torture methods of the Soviets, and it was just so brutal. Like what they did was basically you had a room which was filled with water, ice cold water at that. And you had just a kind of a little island in the middle of it, and that's the only place where you could stay, and you could stay dry, and that's it. You just stay there, and think about it. You need to stay in that room forever, probably.
For years.
And you will get tired at some point, and you cannot get away from that little island that you're on.
Yeah.
And at some point, even if you're super fucked up, you're gonna pass out because you're way tired, and you're gonna fall in the water, and you will be always frustrated because you can never get any sleep, and you will start getting sick because the water is ice cold.
Yeah.
And it actually breaks your psyche.
And
like no sleep,
it's physical and psychological torture, you know, in one.
You just can't sleep at all, and that's messed up as hell. And they did it to all the people also. At least he was describing the situation in Slovakia. I'm pretty sure they did this in, you know, the USSR. Probably all over the place in the socialistic countries.
In the camps, absolutely. In the camps.
It's really messed up.
Yeah, it is messed up.
Yeah.
All for the people, all for the workers.
Workers. How do you call it? Plagiariat?
Proletariat.
That's
Proletariat.
Well, I found some interesting information on Romania.
Oh, okay.
Get this. So after the First World War, they still had a king right? King Carol II, but they also had parties. So I believe they had sort of a mixed system.
Kind of like the UK.
Exactly. Which is very backwards, by the way, in my personal opinion. But going back to Romania in the interwar period actually had the biggest territorial extent at the time.
Ooh, Romania had the biggest territorial. How is that
It was called Greater Romania. And
didn't they also have Moldova at that point?
There were a few territories
of Bulgaria.
Yeah, and
Bulgaria was not as big as it is today,
yes.
Right?
There was
No, it was bigger. It was way bigger. We lost a lot of territory.
And now it's smaller. Okay,
Yes.
might be.
It was
And actually, Slovakia lost like a big chunk of its territory after the Second World War.
We too, yeah.
Because Russia didn't want Slovakia to border with Romania. Because Slovakia used to border with Romania, and they felt like the more isolated these countries are, the better it is for us to control them.
Yeah.
So they literally took, I believe it was maybe like 20% of the whole territory of Slovakia, and they gave it to Ukraine.
divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And just get this, the oil production was so high that Romania was the second highest oil producer in Europe.
Oil? What?
And the 7th biggest oil producer in the world at that time.
Dude, I guess they still
was a
didn't discover
golden
oil in
age
Saudi
for
Arabia
Romania.
and Russia at that point, right?
Yeah, and no global warming that makes other oil more accessible.
Wow.
And was Europe's second largest food producer.
Oh, Romania was really this is the golden age. for
Yeah.
them.
Golden age.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
Soviets came and threatened them with invading them.
Of course.
And they probably did.
That's how it happens.
Yeah, so back to the main topic.
But speaking of Saudi Arabia, did you guys check out or like catch up on the thing that happened in the Turkish consulate?
Yes. Do you
wait.
want to give a quick
Yes.
rundown for those who don't
He
know?
was.
So basically, according to the news, I mean, I haven't been there, so what do I know, right? But basically, apparently, a journalist which has he's Saudi Arabian, and he's a critic of the Saudi Arabian monarchy, and apparently he was really close to them some time ago. Things got sour, and they are not friends anymore. And he basically, I believe he is a US citizen at this point, which is really weird because both Turkey and Saudi Arabia are US allies, right? So the whole thing is a weird triangle. Nevertheless, so he, got some bad blood with the Saudi monarchy. I don't think he fled. I just think he somehow got the US citizenship. I read this some, I don't know. And basically he went to Turkey, to the Saudi consulate, because he wanted to divorce his Saudi wife in order to be able to marry his Turkish wife. He went to the consulate while his wife is outside. He never came out. Who knows what happened? And the whole thing is very confusing to me because either Saudi Arabia just gave the biggest middle finger to absolutely everyone and just totally bluntly did what they wanted to do without any care whatsoever in the world. And Turkey, today I read, I didn't go full detail with it, but today I read a headline that Turkey has an audio, not sure if a video, but definitely an audio proof that this dude was murdered in the Saudi consulate. What I understood from that, they got the thing bugged. And let's be honest, aren't all consulates in the world bugged?
Definitely,
like, isn't the consulate the absolute best place in order for you to spy?
Yes,
like, you can get all the absolutely sensitive information on a country literally in your country, in your capital, most of the time, city. So, I mean, back to the realpolitik, it does make sense that they would spy on other countries and their own consulate.
Yes.
That only makes me think, why don't the consulates, get some super high security intelligence people there who would check out everything and make sure that it's not bugged or wired or
I'm sure that they
Can I
do.
answer to that?
They do have that, right?
They're doing both.
They're doing,
It's a cat and mouse game.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
It's a kind of
Well, a country tries to bug the other one, and the other one tries to work against that.
to discover.
But it's an ongoing
So
cycle.
they know they're being bugged, but they just say exactly the things they want their...
No, then they try to find
No,
the
no, no.
bugs, of course. and they know that they're being bugged because they're also trying to bug the other countries. But it's a cat and mouse game. Sometimes you place a bug, it works for half a year, then it's found.
Okay.
Then you have to go through the process again.
So they do have this guy, but it's under question whether this guy or guys managed to find all of the bugs that they were placed in the first place, in the
For example,
so maybe they did not, and
there are also bugs in the EU, in the buildings that are owned by the EU, and in one of the buildings that is that Greenbergen?
That's
in one of the buildings that I cannot name, they actually found a bug, and they didn't know who placed it there, but it was a bug that basically took the internet communication of several European countries.
Shit, for real?
And they didn't know how long it was there, but they knew that it was very well done. And yes, and they found it by accident. They found it by accident, by the way. Yes, because some phone line didn't work, something like that.
It was like disrupting the signal.
Yeah, there was some, and then they noticed, okay, there's a mistake, and then they started looking into it, and they found the bug. So even that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Just to make that.
I mean, isn't this whole thing really? I don't even know the word for it. It's just weird.
It's
why
weird
would you do something so right in your face? The woman was waiting for her husband
That's
outside
what I wanted to ask. What is their motive? I mean, this guy, was he working?
He was a critic of the Saudi government.
Yeah, but for how many years? And already, I mean, in Turkey, it's not like you have a motive to do it exactly now and do it under such risk, because it's super. It's super obvious, I mean, he's killed in a consulate. It's kind of too obvious,
They exactly know what they're doing. They most likely know what their reaction is going to be to this, and they do it nevertheless.
Exactly.
So it's the biggest middle finger ever done in the history of mankind, or I don't know.
I have one theory.
Me too, because the Turkeys and the Souths, okay, they're allies, but they still have conflicts, right?
No,
they do have.
As far as I know, the new Saudi. I think they still got the old king, but I think there's a new prince who's kind of taken over things, and I think he's more or less not really a big fan of Turkey.
Yeah, so how about Turkey actually organized it, but somehow, put the blame on Saudi Arabia in order to...
now that's a good conspiracy.
Yes, and somehow that's why they made it super obvious that it's the... I don't know how.
Because they got the whole thing bugged.
But yes.
And they're the only ones who know that the bug is in there.
Yes, exactly. And they made it super obvious that it's in the consulate in the Saudi Arabia, so there is no a second questioning, and
That's much better than my theory.
Yeah, what is it?
It's a very good one. Or
they had conflict.
What if the guy actually didn't want to marry this Turkish woman, and
he much rather committed suicide
in front of the bug? No, but he actually realized it in the moment he went into the Saudi consulate, and then he made a deal to disappear and to make it look like a murder. No. And he went back to Saudi Arabia to his faithful wife.
That's also
and to his 3 other women.
And now we sit here and we wonder.
Arabia take the hit then? This is a huge hit for Saudi Arabia. I mean, just
I know. It doesn't make any sense. That's why it must be staged. And if Turkey managed to stage the coup with Erdogan, I mean, they will manage to stage that as well. So
the theory is a work in progress.
Because obviously this thing will. What? We got some high quality comments.
No, I think not anymore, but I'm trying to...
This needs to go up.
Oh, okay.
What is not clear about this? This is...
Yeah, okay. Now I continue. Yes. But the case is super weird indeed, and something is fishy.
Huge hit for Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So if some conspiracies are correct, then why would they do this to themselves?
Exactly.
Why would they make themselves appear in a bad light?
No, think about killing somebody in the consulate in another... I mean, in your consulate, it doesn't make sense, you would kill the person at any other point, but not exactly when he's in the consulate picking up his documents for a marriage, I mean, it just doesn't make sense that the Saudi Arabians have done it, even though I'm not the one
and
to
actually,
say that
once
they're
this
innocent.
happened, Saudi Arabia said that they are willing to have an investigation come into the consulate because,
yes,
like,
right,
I believe,
they will,
like, lawfully, a consulate literally belongs to your country. Like, that area...
It's immunity.
It
has an immunity.
The laws of your
immunity.
country apply in that house.
Yes.
It's part of your country.
They can refuse.
Yes,
they can refuse
exactly.
investigation and everything. Yeah,
exactly. They could say, no, we don't want this. Obviously, that would look fishy as hell. But they said, yeah, sure.
Immediately. On the next day that it happened, they immediately said
that they were...
Either
they were not even aware of this, and it's like so deep that the Turks really made a trap for them, and they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And they're like, oh, we found some audio file that makes you look bad, and they're like, ah, shit.
It seems to me like everything from the side of the Turks, they're quite, some theatrical people.
The whole thing smells
it smells
as hell.
It smells a lot. Yes.
Something, I don't know.
Something is not the way that it's presented.
Right,
I mean.
something is not right there, and I just wonder what it is.
Yeah.
It's very possible that there's another half of the story that simply will not come out that quickly. Who knows? Maybe he was an agent. Maybe he was a double agent. Maybe there's something in his life, or he was the wrong person at the wrong time in some way or the other.
It was the woman all along
that they were looking for.
His wife.
The wife killed him. Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe yes.
But
maybe she gave him
I really
some
think
poison.
She's like mourning right now. But
then,
I don't know.
If you're watching this.
Nah, it's really low.
You kill him.
I think it's a really low chance.
We figured it out.
He would,
Wait, there's a new comment.
I'm sorry, Makana. We didn't mean it.
Wait, jihad on those motherfuckers.
So, it's just something that really confused me when I was reading about it. Some things usually are like quite straightforward that you can be like, yeah, probably it's this way. But this whole thing is really fishy.
But so many, like, all of these, conflicts that happen, I mean, like, which are with international relevance are so fishy. Just like the poisonings in the UK with the...
Skripal.
Yeah, the Skripal.
Yeah.
That was also super weird. It's super weird until even now, and it's like, I don't know. I mean...
Skripal. The cripple.
But you know that in Hague, there's like a drug agency
the chemical, right?
Excuse me, yes, the chemical...
There are many drug agencies, if you call it like that in Hague.
No, but...
Back to topic.
But like, really, like, I don't know the whole name for it, I'm probably gonna say something wrong, but bear with me. So basically the organization that is checking the chemicals, and it's researching and maybe breaking it down to the simplest elements of the whole thing and whatnot. And they found out. Have you heard of this? They found out that Russian agents were literally right in front of the building, spying. Like everything was pointed on the office of the guy who was like researching this shit.
And they were that incapable because they found it out very quickly, right? It was
They found it like right away. Like there wasn't like 2-3 days. They found it right away, and they sent them back home.
But that's absolutely normal.
But I also think this was because some radio was not working. If I recall correctly, there was also something like this that they had some technical difficulties.
They had the newest Windows update, right? And then it broke the computer. That's how it happens.
Oh, I see you got a problem.
You need a permission to run this.
It is funny that they were spying like some morons, under the window, but overall it doesn't surprise me. That's completely normal.
That they're trying to spy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Of course.
That's obvious.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that.
It's funny that it's like that.
It's just that it was so amateur-like. Yeah.
That's why I don't...
It right away.
That way it seems, as you say, it's fishy to me. The same with Skripal, that they found... This happened afterwards, so not many people read about it. But they found a sort of container that contained the nerve gas, as they claimed. It was like a small glass bottle that was for cosmetics. Yeah. And they said they found it and it contained actually this nerve agent. Mm-hmm. And just so... But
there is some independent I believe they claim to be so, at least some independent research website, whatever. And they're really digging into this, and they found out that one of them is a military doctor in Russia.
One of the guys that they arrested.
One of the guys. He claimed that he's just there as a tourist. Found out his name is fake. Found out he left Russian intelligence agency a few days before he took the flight. And they found out that he really is some Russian military, medical researcher, scientist.
But that could as well be. How about if they were after these guys that they arrested the whole time, and they just needed pretext in order to arrest them? Because it doesn't seem. Well, for example, if England, if the UK knew about these guys that left Russia and everything, and they're apparently some experts and super relevant, like medical researcher people, or whatever, and they were after them anyway, first they took advantage of expelling the diplomats, the Russian diplomats. I mean, when the case happened, like UK expelled diplomats, so they did some purge there, on a political level. So that was one benefit they got from the whole story. And then the second possibility could be that they were after arresting these guys anyway, but they needed a pretext, because in general it's okay to change your name. I mean, it's still legal to actually do it. It's still legal to move from one country to another. So maybe they just wanted to, because it doesn't, to me it sounded so ridiculous, and it still sounds until now, that Russia will try to poison these two irrelevant almost people, like the Skripal and everything.
The most relevant.
To what degree? I mean, so that you do a poisoning in another country that even fails. They didn't even die. They were out of the hospital in 1 week. And what kind of a nerve?
They were there for the longest time. I mean, they didn't.
I think they were very the girl was longer, or the father was
girl
longer,
was shorter. The girl recovered quite quickly, and the father was a bit
quite
longer.
Quickly, exactly. Okay,
but the point is that they said this is a poison that kills you almost immediately without any chance.
They said it's such a nerve gas that it's 10 times stronger than this other. This one they call Novichok, and the other one was. And they were comparing them, and they were saying Novichok was like and they were saying Novichok is like so much more dangerous. But how come everybody had contact with them? None of them died. None of them has severe injuries.
And then a civilian dies.
Come on, yes.
But that's why that's why
I'm wondering whether the UK wasn't after these people and after expelling the Russian ones from the first place, like from the start of this whole story, and it was again just a whole theater.
But I honestly thought this whole thing is fishy up until this point, when they have identified those two guys, and when they found out the Russian guys like right in front of the research center. Up until that point, I was like, who knows? But right now, I don't even know what to think myself, because this whole thing is as confusing as the whole Saudi thing. Like,
exactly.
It doesn't
That's why they made the parallel.
It doesn't make sense. I can't really see the motivation.
Exactly, the motive behind it
from any side.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
My point is. Oh, I think I forgot my point. But yeah, it just is really weird.
You can't make conclusions because it's so
It smells fishy, the whole thing. And like I said, I thought it was like weird up until that point, when they really identified the Russian people that this shit was going on. Because actually, the thing that would contradict what you said was that those guys left really a couple of days before the poisoning took place, so they have not been in the UK for a long time, and they have not been profiled. They have not been profiled. And matter of fact, they identified these guys 2-3 months after the poisoning, maybe. Took them a long time to identify them. And that makes me confused even more.
Or are they playing it?
What's going on?
I mean, I'm not sure how much time it takes them.
Why would you do this?
Exactly.
Well, the thing of the pretext is interesting that you mentioned, because it was definitely a pretext for expelling Russian spies. Because that's what they were doing in the aftermath, when they said.
I think the whole EU did it, right?
Yes.
In this
we did not.
Because they said.
No.
Slovakia didn't either.
Yeah, we denied in the end. It was a big back and forth, but in the end we said no.
They said they expelled the Russian diplomats, but it's an open secret that if you deploy spies, you give them the identity of a diplomat.
So
that they're protected.
A purge for spies.
And then they said, okay, we're expelling many Russian spies now. And I was surprised at first, but then it came to my mind, actually, they're just getting rid of spies.
Yeah.
So was that the pretext that you needed? But then why would you need to get rid of the spies to begin with?
It's
It's
always a benefit.
But what's the long goal? What's the long term goal?
There is a long
what's
goal,
the end game
definitely.
here?
There is definitely an
Where
end
are we
game
headed
because
with
just
this?
like
Do they want war?
and they pushed it quite a lot in the media. You know, they pushed it like, oh yeah, this case it has to have international attention, international importance. They pushed other countries, you know, to expel the diplomats. So there must be an end game, as you say, but I don't know. I mean,
I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see it. As of yet, definitely not. And who knows if we'll ever see it. I mean, what we hear of is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, can you imagine how much shit is going on behind the scenes that we are absolutely ignorant towards?
Yes.
Like, the spy game must be so fucking ridiculously strong. We have no idea what is happening.
Especially here in Brussels, in Vienna, those are the centers of...
Exactly, the centers, like the biggest cities like London, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, Vienna, you know, Rome. Like, these cities are really the hotspots for this shit, at least in Europe, obviously all over the world.
Yeah, but for
other
Europe.
hotspots, so, of course, but it's just, we learn only of those things that are the tip of the iceberg, and we don't know what is going on behind the scenes. I mean, maybe these countries are doing these things in order to show a public reaction. You know, they can do it because if the public would find out, then they would be like, oh, but our government is doing shady things. So in order to not make it seem like they're reacting to those shady things, which we'll never find out, they might make some phony baloney things that we just take at face value, and we're like, well, yeah, this happened, and that's why our country's doing this. But maybe our country's doing it for a totally different reason.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know.
It's always not fake flag, but
false flag.
False flag.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who knows how deep the
False
rabbit
flag.
hole goes? Like, seriously.
Exactly.
We'll never find out, probably. And I was,
we do in a safe way.
like, I was told in history that after 50 years, all, you know, secret files will be published.
Yes, in general.
And I'm like, why the hell don't you just destroy those files? Like, if you know these files are gonna show you in a bad light, like, it's gonna portray you totally negatively. Like, what is the logical thing?
50 years are a lot of time. They do exchange them, destroy them, falsify them, and everything.
But the really shady projects are not on paper.
Yeah,
there are some.
And that's as well.
I mean, the ones that will be published are either falsified or just, as you say, the tip of the iceberg. The real shady stuff is compartmentalized and off any paper trail. There's no paper trail.
Because I know that, but I mean, it's so easy to just burn that shit. Even if you write it down, like, who the hell will ever know? Back in the days, like, let's assume these files have really been back 50 years. You actually had to write them on a typewriter. You didn't just write them on a computer, and there was a digital imprint of that file that you created, and someone could have somehow found it. Even if you deleted it, there's, you know, people who really know how to do their magic with computers. They can find it even after you delete it. But back in the days, it was literally a physical thing. And you could just burn it. You could falsificate it. You could do whatever the hell you want with it.
Yeah.
And I had a point.
And that's what they were doing.
Yeah, that's what they did. Right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. People really looking forward once they published the JFK files.
Oh,
Did you remember this? There was a couple of years ago, like, they were like, oh shit, the JFK files are gonna come out. And the JFK files
in 2014, I think, it was
something like that.
Wasn't he killed in 64?
I believe it was like...
Yeah, 2013, 14, something like that. Yeah, no, it wasn't even 10 years. It was after the 2010 for sure. Because it's 60 something. But and nothing, and it was nothing out of it.
Like, once the files come out, maybe finally we'll get to know something we didn't know up until now. The files came out, and we found out shit. We don't know at all something new from these files. And to me, it is like, if there ever was something in these files, either they were never written, or they were totally falsificated, or, you know, or they were just destroyed.
Absolutely. No, that's been some big time bullshit waiting for 50 years.
50 years you would keep a secret in your fucking backyard that
and
would one day
really
come and bite you back in your ass.
Yeah.
Seriously?
It's for our security, that's why it's 50 years. But then we're gonna be honest. Yeah,
is this a thing? Yeah.
No.
And sometimes they extend the period simply.
Sometimes they do actually.
Yeah, I believe in Germany for some things it's 100 years. Or they expanded it, 75, or they expanded it.
Fucking hell.
Extended it.
Like for World War II?
Fuck, what was it?
There was something specific, but I can't. It's maybe some Cold War stuff.
Like Eastern
Someone
Korean
was
shit.
saying this criticism of Obama's administration. Was it something exactly
they
after the
expanded
Cold?
also?
Yes, that
Regarding-
it was exactly. But what was it regarding? I forgot now. But something had
Something
to
that
be
should have
revealed.
been declassified.
Exactly,
right, in his
declassified
time.
in 50 years, and then they expanded it. Obama and his administration actually
Do you
said,
happen
no,
to
it's not
know
safe enough. So
regarding what it might have been?
yeah, and, didn't we watch it together, right? It was with the Untold History of the United States. I think it was with the documentary where
I
they
can't
said
recall at the moment. Maybe we
Yeah.
can look it up later.
Yeah, maybe I can remember,
But
it,
yes,
but
well,
it happens. It happens
it-
quite a lot. That
Isn't it bizarre that
Even
Obama
instead,
received the Nobel Peace Prize?
Come on, the European Union received the Nobel
Yeah,
Peace
but-
Prize.
but-
I don't think it's that far-fetched that Obama would get one after
But let's realize that he got it before his presidency really started, and he was one of the presidents
yeah.
under his while he was
Get it
the
before it
president.
started? I think it was like within the first year. that he
Exactly.
got it,
Yeah,
no?
but before anything
yeah,
was
yeah.
could be shown in terms of his
Anything really
policies.
important happened. Yeah.
And
But
he
he
had
actually
more
did a lot of
people.
stuff
He had
on
more
the
people
war.
deported than George Bush. He had more people killed by drones than George Bush.
Increase the military spending
Yeah,
as well.
he didn't close Guantanamo Bay.
No. He was a very war-oriented president. I have no idea why people keep saying that. Like, have you really read that shit? I mean, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, he was very.
He got the benefit of the doubt, you know. But
Yeah,
I believe they should have had the
super
option to take the Peace Prize back.
I mean,
at the end,
he
you know,
literally was
Obama,
there.
you fucked up, you know. Okay, give it back,
But actually,
please.
I think there was somebody like the main person who gives out or the Nobel Prize or whatever, and he said that he's actually sorry for this Nobel Prize. Or
What's
there
a
was
committee?
something like that. What?
It's a committee that
Yeah, it's a
decides who
committee,
gets
but
it.
like the main director of the committee, let's say, or something like that, had some, like interview and everything. He said, yeah, we hadn't thought it out completely before giving that one.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know this much about Obama.
Yeah,
I've
he's
never really researched into this.
It's more of a side fact.
Yeah, I don't know how we got to that, but yeah, because I mentioned he extended some. Yeah, and under Obama as well, the most like, do you know that it has like journalists, for example, can ask for like some
Freedom of
Information Acts, yeah, and the most were refused also under Obama. The most, like the biggest number of Freedom of Information Acts by investigative journalism that asked to really like work on cases. He was like, no, you don't mess up with our business. So very.
But I think there we go again into the topic that you can always say it wasn't Obama, it was the Obama administration.
Oh yeah. I mean, the president.
But you're the president.
Yeah.
Because I just, I don't really want to portray Trump now as the good guy and Obama as the bad guy, but I just feel like people, whenever it comes to Obama, they're like, yeah, Obama did this. But whenever it comes to Trump, you put the whole thing in there.
He has done everything wrong.
Like,
He's doing everything wrong.
Like, Trump, and I mean, Trump is a goofball. Like, obviously, Trump is not a saint or anything. Trump is really, he's a phenomenon in my book. He's way more up there than anything else we probably have ever seen in our lives. He defies the laws of logic, in my opinion. Literally, he does, and it's just really interesting. Like, that's why I believe America is, like, the USA is literally the biggest reality TV show right now on air,
really like a
and
reality
it keeps
TV
getting
show.
better and better every day, unfortunately. But like whenever we portray something as good, we just like to show the one person. But when something
absolutely.
is bad, we want to kind of throw everything
But
in the
to be
same.
honest,
It's in versus out group, you know.
I don't even
People are
understand
tribalistic and they have this
what
tendency.
Trump has done, which is so. Oh my God! I don't understand, except that he said that he's going to grab some
defeated
people by the
Hillary.
pussy. But
Well, the Israel thing was
except
kind of
with
messed
that-
up, that he acknowledged Jerusalem as the capital city.
Yeah, but now does anyone talk about it?
Always
People have already forgotten that. And the thing with the pussy,
I mean, that's the
I think that the US was super supportive of Israel.
and the thing with the pussy grabbing is that
that's bullshit.
he said when you're very famous, that's what he literally said, is when you're very famous,
Oh, okay.
you don't even have to make an effort to pick up women, you can grab them by the pussy. That's how he meant it. He's so powerful, okay, he doesn't have to make an effort. He can directly...
Yeah, but that's even bullshit, even if he meant it in the most...
But the interpretation always goes, people say, okay, Trump said you can just grab women by the pussy, but that's not what he said. He said a person who is so powerful and who is a billionaire and in his position has such a high status that he doesn't need to do anything, he can directly get the woman.
Yeah.
He just said it in a crude way, and I'm not defending necessarily whatever you wanna
you're just saying what
project onto me at the moment, but it got
but
misrepresented so much just to paint even a worse picture, and there's enough to make a bad picture of him, and he doesn't give a fuck, obviously. But that pussy growing thing has always bothered me.
To me, his policies are not that extraordinary to me. I mean, he hasn't done anything that much that is, I don't know, because people are all time, oh wow, Trump. What? I mean, what?
The thing is that you always, the most things that you read about Trump is that it's filtered through the media, and the media hates Trump, and therefore...
But you can even then see it.
But the bias gets passed on. You know, if there's something that the media likes, then you will always get favorable reporting, and if there's someone they don't like, you get just negative reporting. And there's even a study about how the media was reporting on Trump, and 90% is negative. And I don't think that 90% of his policies are negative, or what he's been doing, you know. But it gets put through the viewing glass.
I think that especially for the US, it's actually, I mean, he's playing it quite nationalistic, and I think that actually the US can maybe, it will have an impact on us, you know, maybe a negative impact on us, but on US, he's actually playing strong for their interest, for their economic interest, like shit. I mean, he's really using the fact that we're completely interdependent of US being the biggest economic giant, and now he's trying to pull that out in order to get more even like benefits for you. I think he's actually really playing for the interest of his country, which, I mean, in a way that, you know, I mean, it's not like we're gonna have the negative impact of it. And I don't know, like when you think about it, oh yeah, no, there is no interest of countries. We're all supporting each other. We live in a global system where we all just help each other. That's why Trump is so bad, because he's a nationalistic bastard. But come on, I mean, if you really speak honestly, each country is trying to play for its interest. I think we actually said it earlier in the conversation.
Yes.
Absolutely, from a I mean, come on.
Even in the EU.
Even in the EU, of course.
As we mentioned with
but I still think
budget. Trump
is nevertheless a phenomenon. I really think nothing has ever happened in the history of the world as Trump did. And I'm not meaning it in a positive nor a negative way. I just mean that Trump is the very first person that came to the politics, and he did things in a way that is not politically correct. He came there, and the first thing that I believe there was a new leader of Taiwan, he fucking called her or him.
Oh, yes,
remember.
right.
And he was like, yo, big ups to you.
And they haven't spoken for like...
China was like, what the fuck? How can you do this? Like, there's a one China policy, and Trump is like, I don't care.
Yes.
He did the Israel thing. He is grabbing girls by the... You know, like, he does things, and he does not give a fuck about what the other people think. And that is what I mean, that Trump is breaking the boundaries, that he does things that were absolutely unprecedented before him. Like, before him, any other sane US president would come and he'd be like, I can do this. Trump comes and he's like, why not?
Yeah.
And
I'll
like,
show you.
And they're like, bro, you just can't. And he's like, why not? And they're like, well, because there's like rules, man. And he's like, fuck the rules. And he just does it nevertheless. And that's why everyone is like, you know, like they're portraying it as goofy, as dumb, uneducated, rash, whatever you want. You know, like that's why, because he just does things the Trump way. He doesn't give a fuck about what others thinks. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend him. It's not a good nor a bad thing, I think. To me, I'm always, you know, the more of a neutral person that I believe he's just fighting for his interests and for the interests of his country.
I think so.
But I think that currently well, not currently. I think in the future, it might not bite him back in the ass, but it will definitely bite the US back in the ass, because the trade war that he just started, I don't think the US will come out on top of it.
With China?
I'm not sure. The US is a very
because with China
good
the trade war they're definitely winning.
yeah.
Right now.
Because
But I think that's long term. Because what's happening, at least I'm very,
the US is
I'm very,
really
I
the
suck,
richest country.
I
and
suck at economy, okay, so don't take my word for granted. But the way I understand it is that the more he's fighting for the interests of the US, he's forgetting that we're living in a world that is like slowly, no, not slowly, bullshit, rapidly globalizing. Everything is getting more and more intertwined. It's like, imagine it, metaphor, imagine it as a huge stream of water that is going fucking fast.
But that could
And
be
Trump
a big benefit
is the one
for him,
fish
actually.
that is like, no, I'm gonna go to the opposite way. And I think globalization is something that is happening whether you acknowledge it or not. And if you go against the stream, I think in the long run it will bite you in the ass, because what will happen?
Why do you think he's going against the stream? That's
Because
what
he's US only. He's fighting for the US interests, but I don't think that is the best way in a globalizing world. You need
he's fighting to be a
obviously you want
global
your
giant
country-
and hegemon, and to say exactly, like, for example, you pay that many percentage here, you pay that many percentage there. Globalization is happening, but still under the leadership of blocks, and I think that what Trump wants is actually really a unified American leadership, and he's working toward it. So globalization will keep,
That
of course,
doesn't really work
happening and
out.
everything, but under the rules of America. And yeah, I mean, the two things are not
the
compatible.
US will actually they will disengage to a degree from the world stage, and they are one of the least dependent countries on globalization. Because the reason why the US was so strong pro globalization was because they needed the oil largely. Because most of the products in the US are from the US and they circulate there. So they're not really dependent on imports except for oil and energy. And with the oil, they're getting more and more independent.
Yeah.
So they don't need globalization as other countries do.
But they can lead the globalization.
They have the military power.
Yes, exactly. By pulling out, you
But military
destabilize.
has nothing to do with
You
globalization.
destabilize.
It does.
Oh, it has
Because
everything.
it secures the global trade.
Yes.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say with the whole thing is that what is doing Trump right now, he is isolating himself. And maybe not right now, but in the long run, it can bite the US back in its ass, because they are just
Yeah,
gonna
if
be
they don't play their
a lone
cards right,
soldier
yeah.
in the field, and they might be sufficiently, caring for themselves right now, but it doesn't have to be this forever. And if they piss off too many people at the same time, they will spite them. They will want to see them on their knees, and they will do exactly the opposite. And I don't think the US, socially, culturally, maybe economically, it's still doing fine. Military is the only thing that is holding the US above water.
Military
And once they'll be
international
alone,
influence.
what is the point of being the top of your game
This is
if
absolutely
you don't,
a plausible scenario. This is one very plausible scenario. And the other one is that you pull out, and then you increase the destabilization due to interdependence from the US in other countries. And then you actually, you increase your influence and your impact even more. Because, if you pull out of being a leader on a global economic level, military level, and foreign relations level, and then this puts the rest of the world in kind of a crisis. What are we going to do without her?
US is not
And
that
then-
powerful anymore to put the whole world in a crisis. What I'm trying to say
I
with this
think
whole
they
thing
are.
is that the US will get isolated, and the others have a really big opportunity to not only catch up, but even surpass.
I think exactly the opposite.
China is exactly at the doorstep. And if
China
the
is super
US
weak. China is super weak socially, super weak politically. It's extremely weak economically as
How
well.
can it be politically weak?
Because they're isolated. They're a different system that is encapsulated internally. They're not weak in terms of the
Everyone
Chinese
that the
people
US
are.
is pissing off right now is coming to China. And that's what I mean with this. The US is basically,
China is demographically in a very bad spot that US
As well,
does very well. That's why I don't
I
worry
understand
about
your
the US
point,
so much.
but I understand your point, but I just see
No,
the
the
things
US
like,
is better. The US is much better because
I
the
don't
US
think
has
they
a
will.
stable
Yes,
age
the US
structure.
is a very stable, actually.
And
very
hardly
stable
any Western
demographically.
European
That I
country.
do not know.
It's actually
Yeah.
one of
But
the
like
few
the US
really.
socially is a catastrophe, no?
I don't think so.
Depends.
Why not?
Yeah, I
Because
also don't think so.
I believe we have a very warped image of the US because it's a fucking huge place, and the way we see the US is always through a filter. Because I believe if you go to the US itself and you don't see only the focus of social media or the mainstream media, you will see a place that's not much different from Europe with just a few features that are different. But in terms of economics and demographics, the US is actually better off than Europe, for example. Also for Japan.
And Australia.
Japan is also one of the leading good examples of a country. And in Japan, they sell more diapers for old people than for babies. Because the age structure is so fucked. And same is true for China because of the one-child policy. In China, in 15 to 20 years, they will be so worried about how to sustain the system because there's so few young people and so many old people that just this will be a huge threat to the stability.
That's why I think that the US is actually really, really in comparison to. I mean, I don't want it to sound so unilaterally somehow, but I think they're in a very good position. And I think they're taking advantage of that position like shit. And it is possible what you say. Of course, it is. If they don't play their cards right. But okay, it's possible. It's so complex, and yeah, absolutely. But it's just this is two potential scenarios. Who knows?
I don't know. I just believe that, and I think we are underestimating this factor. Globalization is a thing, and it should not be underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you take globalization out of the equation, you're just gonna get fucked.
But the US, they just made a.
But why do you
Trump
think
just made a new trade agreement with Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, the new one. Yeah.
I mean, it's not that they're not globalized, but I believe they focus more on the things that serve. Or Trump, as you said, he does more things that are actually meant to support the national interest.
Yeah. No, they're trying to. It's not that they're becoming unglobalized. They're just trying to manage the process of globalization even tighter and tighter by the increasement of the where it serves them by the increasement of the NATO payments and everything. Exactly. That's what I think that, and it might bite them on the ass, or like how is the expression? As you said, if they don't play their cards right, because it's a very fishy and tricky game, But still, if they do, and as it seems, I mean, the conditions that they're in and the state of the system, they have quite of an advantage, and
they have a leg over most European countries, definitely, and how disorganized the EU is. The EU is removing itself from being relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
That I never understood why that is happening.
Yeah, me too, because we have so much potential.
The potential is there.
The potential is brutal.
But I think really, if the EU ever wants to be successful, I believe it has to federalize.
Yeah.
Because if there's 28 people arguing over the same thing, and then Hungary comes in and they say no, and then the whole thing falls down, how are you ever going to move past this point?
How
like
you will,
like the whole migrant crisis, as they call it. It all basically happened because they couldn't agree on a position, and it took 2-3 years to actually decide on what they wanted to do about it.
Normally.
That's ridiculous. Like I said, this is a globalizing world. Things have to go bum. Immediately. People are waiting for these decisions, and if it takes you a fucking long time to actually decide on a common decision between yourself, not only implement it. That's just unacceptable in 2018. I'm sorry.
The problems
that shit just doesn't work.
Yeah, structural in the bureaucracy and in the system, and the fact that we need to innovate. We really need to innovate.
I believe that's why there has to be more. Like whatever I think of Trump, at least when Trump is like, we're gonna do this, everyone can fuck themselves in the ass, but they will do it.
But they will.
Yeah.
And if we say, well, let's do this, and then some say, no, but let's do this, and then those say, no, you're all wrong, let's do something else. We're gonna get crazy in these negotiations. We need someone,
we are going crazy,
like as bad as it sounds, we need someone in shitty situations to take the leadership and be like, fuck you all, we're gonna do this. No,
but that's
no
always how it
discussion.
has worked, isn't it? Like that in business, you know, in some, even in smaller business. I mean, like when a crisis comes, there is always one person who kind of like says, "Okay,
But
man,
one
we
person
just
is
like
a
try
bad
to."
thing. I don't think it
Yeah,
has to be
okay,
one person.
okay,
It should
not
be
one
one
person,
center.
okay,
It should be
okay.
like one
Yeah.
area of people who
Okay.
decide for everyone, not like one person deciding for.
Yeah, but man, we just
we're
spoke about the differences between Eastern and Western Europe. Can you imagine if this happens? I mean, then like 10 people in Brussels sitting here that have never, I don't know, traveled even to, I don't know, to our part of the,
I don't know.
You know, then
but
they will
maybe-
make
maybe in
decisions that are
case
completely
a
from the perspective
confederation?
of
Maybe
yes,
a confederation
yes, a
would be a
confederation,
better
maybe,
idea?
yeah, confederation, maybe
rather
would
than a
be better.
federation itself.
Yes, a confederation might be
Maybe,
better.
you know, I had this idea a
jokes.
while back, or when I was studying in Maastricht, like why can't we create a couple of regions in the EU, like a couple of regions that would be more or less doing their own thing, but all together with the same, you know, intentions.
Yes,
Like
values.
we all kind of want to achieve this, or at least these are the things we commonly want to achieve.
Yeah.
Let's pool our resources and try to achieve it all on our own way.
Yeah.
And you know, like maybe some would call it a multiple speed Europe. I would just call it a multiple region Europe, because like Central and Eastern Europe would do their own thing kind of. Maybe the southern
Yes.
countries, because the southern countries definitely
It's a
not
bit
compatible
different,
with Western Europe.
Absolutely,
They
it's
would
not,
be
yeah.
doing their own thing. Maybe the Western countries would be doing their own thing, and the Northern countries would be doing their own thing. And I think everyone would be happy in this, because those things they do not agree on, they would just not agree on. Each region would do their own thing, and why would there have to be bad blood because of this? And you know, like when it is the actual thing that really, you know, matters, they would be all like, okay, let's do this. And maybe it would be like a, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe it would be something like a government where everyone, no, excuse me, not a government, like a parliament, like a centralized parliament somewhere in Europe. And, you know, like all these regions would maybe present some political parties, and they would then, I don't know. Is this too far-fetched?
No, instead of fitting it into one monolith that should serve everyone,
It's absolutely.
that would be more diverse and maybe sustainable.
I also
Because-
am much more
Yeah.
for this system than what we even currently have. It's just that there are some complications that arise. Some like, for example, what do we do with freedom of movement?
Yeah.
Are there going to be border checkups? Who can migrate from one country to another for work? What about the students? Is it the same, you know, legal system in the one and the other? Do we have the same education here? Do you accept diplomas? Are all of those, you know, small
But those are
details
the
start
easy
to-
things. Those are really the easy things.
Yeah, actually, maybe.
And when you
those are
see
the-
in which things the EU gets bogged down in, it's really true what you say, that we need to make some changes.
I think-
Because right now they
I
do
agree
in
too.
most discussions is they fight over semantics. It's
But-
about should we put an and or an or? Should it be field or this or that?
Should we have a summertime 1 hour ahead or 1 hour
Yo,
back? I mean,
Actually,
it's
really like the decision they made to fucking make the changes there.
Yeah, but now they have the idea of that every country decides it for itself. I mean, that's even more retarded.
No, that is retarded.
that is, yeah, exactly.
No,
And
it
then you
should be
go and
either
it's like,
or.
yes, it should be either
Either
or.
or.
And just fucking decide it. It's just 1 hour. It
And
doesn't.
yeah, then we come back to the point, like just fucking decide for
Just fucking
everyone.
decide,
I don't
yeah.
really care.
I don't
what
care.
the
I
decision
agree
is.
with everything. I can stand up 1 hour earlier